What would you do if you saw someone, a stranger, quietly breaking down in a coffee shop? Not dramatically, not loudly, but just sitting there, defeated? 9 out of 10 people might look the other way since it is a stranger. But what happens when someone chooses to care? Barron Trump noticed a struggling single mom. And instead of turning away like most people would, he stepped in. What happened next completely transformed her life, and it just might change how you see him too. Hey there and welcome back to the channel, where we bring you powerful real-life stories that not only inspire, but remind us that one good deed can ripple out and touch so many lives. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button and tap the bell so you never miss a moment like this again. Now let's get into this story. It's raw. It's real. And it all started with one woman. Her name is Rachel. Rachel was like a lot of single moms you might know. She wasn't out there looking for pity. She wasn't waiting for someone to save her. She was just trying, really trying, to keep things afloat for herself and her 2 little kids. Every day was a balancing act. Waking up before sunrise, packing lunches, getting the kids off to school, hustling to her first job, racing across town to her second, and somehow still squeezing in online classes because she dreamed of a better life. But dreams don't pay the rent. And despite all her effort, Rachel was behind on bills. Her electricity had been cut off once already that month. Her older son needed a new pair of shoes for school, and her younger daughter had asthma medication that wasn't fully covered by insurance. By the time this story takes place, Rachel is running on fumes. She hadn't had a proper day off in months. That particular Thursday, she stopped by a small cafe in downtown Manhattan. Not because she had the time or the money to spend on lattes, but because it was quiet. Because she needed 5 minutes to breathe. That's all she wanted. She sat down at a corner table, pulled out her notepad, and tried to crunch the numbers again. Rent, utilities, childcare, food. And right there, in the middle of that cafe, she realized the math just didn't work. There was no way she could stretch what she had left to cover what she owed. And that's when the tears started. Quiet, contained. The kind of cry that happens when you're just done. Now here's where this story flips. Across the room, someone else had been watching. Casually at first, then more intently. He was tall, dressed simply in jeans and a hoodie, sipping a tea by the window. At first glance, no one would have guessed who he was. But yeah, Barron Trump was out of the spotlight. No entourage. No media. Just him in flesh and blood. Despite constant security advice, and let's be real, borderline warnings, not to venture out alone, Barron still did. Not recklessly. Not to prove a point. But because he needed something, the walls of privilege couldn't give him perspective. Growing up as Barron Trump meant everything you did was either analyzed, criticized, or mythologized. You weren't just a kid. You were a name. A brand. A political talking point. For most of his teenage life, Barron had security around him 24/7. In school hallways, at restaurants, and even at family gatherings. Every smile could be recorded. Every conversation could leak. That kind of life? It makes you careful, but it also makes you crave authenticity. So once he hit 18, once he could finally make a few choices for himself, he started doing something that made his security team sweat. He walked. Alone. Not far. Not in danger. But enough. Enough to feel like a person again. You see, Barron didn't want to live in a filtered version of the world. He wanted to see people. Regular people, not through a tinted SUV window, not through handshakes at formal events. He wanted to see tired baristas at closing time. Street musicians are playing for coins. Moms juggling groceries and toddlers on a subway car. He didn't need to be protected from them, he needed to remember that they were real. Because if all you see are boardrooms and banquets, you start to forget how most people actually live. And yes, it made his detail nervous. You get the texts, the reminders. Mr. Trump, we recommend you avoid this area after dark. Please let us accompany you. This route is not secure. He didn't ignore them out of arrogance. He heard them. He respected them. But he also believed that sometimes, to understand the people you're supposed to care about, you have to walk where they walk. You have to look someone in the eye who doesn't care who your father is, because they've got rent due and 3 hours left on shift. That's why he was in that cafe. No cameras. No plan. Just a tall young man in a hoodie, nursing tea and watching the world unfold around him. So when he noticed Rachel, the way she sat, the way her shoulders curled inward, the notepad full of crossed out numbers, it hit him. This wasn't some abstract struggle. It was real. It was right in front of him. And maybe if he hadn't gone out alone that day, he never would have seen it. Never would have helped. He watched as Rachel dropped her wallet. Loose change scattered across the cafe floor and no one moved. No one helped until Barron did. He got up, crouched down beside her, and helped her collect the coins without saying much. Rachel looked up, startled. "Thanks," she said, embarrassed. "You really didn't have to." But then she paused. She recognized him. Wait, are you?" Barron smiled politely. "Yeah, I am." She laughed nervously, wiping her eyes. "This is a weird day." And Barron, without missing a beat, asked a question most people never do. "Are you okay?" Not the polite kind of, "How are you?" that people ask in passing. No, he meant it. And maybe that's why Rachel answered him. She told him, not everything but enough. About her kids. About working 2 jobs. About school. About how close she was to giving up. She wasn't asking for anything. She wasn't even trying to make it sound dramatic. She was just being honest. And Barron? He listened. Really listened. After a few minutes, Barron asked her something strange. "What's your dream?" Rachel blinked. "My dream? Yeah. If things weren't so hard, what would you want your life to look like?" And after some hesitation, she told him, "A job with healthcare. Time to actually raise my kids. To finish school. Maybe open a little business. Something small. Something stable." Barron nodded. Then, without making a big show of it, he pulled out a card. Just a card. Plain. It had the name of a foundation on it, one that supports single mothers in transition. He told her, "These people can help. They cover childcare, emergency rent, career coaching. I'll personally vouch for you." Rachel didn't know what to say. Why would you do that? And here's what he said, "Because people helped me when I didn't ask for it. And someone helped my mom when no one else would. Sometimes we help because we remember what it feels like not to be helped." That line? That stuck with her. He didn't see her as a project. He saw her as someone worth believing in. Fast forward 3 weeks. Rachel had contacted the foundation. And yes, they followed through. She got a rent grant, childcare support, free mentorship from a local entrepreneur. And soon after, a new job that paid more and gave her evenings free to actually be with her kids. In just a few months, Rachel's life didn't become perfect, but it became manageable. There were still challenges, of course. But the crushing weight? It lifted. And it all started with one act of kindness from someone most people would have assumed didn't care. Let's rewind for a second, because understanding Rachel's journey gives this even more weight. She had grown up in upstate New York. Her parents divorced when she was 10, and from then on, her mom worked 3 jobs just to get by. That's where Rachel learned resilience. When she got pregnant at 20, she left college to raise her son. 2 years later, her daughter was born. And from then on, life became about survival. She worked hard. Harder than most. But no matter how much effort she gave, it always felt like she was one emergency away from losing everything until that afternoon in the cafe. 6 months after that moment, Rachel stood in front of a small crowd at a community fundraiser. She held the mic with trembling hands and told the story of that day. Of the stranger who helped her. Of how everything changed. She ended with this: "He didn't just give me money. He gave me dignity. He reminded me that I mattered. That someone saw me. And because of that, I could finally start seeing myself again." This story never made headlines. No one snapped a photo. Barron didn't tweet about it. He didn't use it for PR. And maybe that's what made it so powerful, because it wasn't about attention. It was about humanity. The foundation later sent Barron a handwritten letter. Inside was a photo of Rachel and her kids, smiling, safe, stable. It said, "This is the ripple you started. Thank you." Barron framed it. Because in a world where so much feels loud, fake, and transactional, this was real. And here's the truth, we all have those moments. Moments when we can choose to help, to listen, to notice. And maybe we won't see the ripple. Maybe the person never says thank you. But the impact? It's real. Barron Trump didn't change Rachel's life because he had wealth or connections. He changed it because he cared enough to see someone, and to act. If this story moved you, if you believe in the power of small kindnesses that lead to big changes, do me a favor right now, hit the like button. Share this video with someone who might need this message today. And most importantly, subscribe for more real stories just like this, stories that remind us that compassion is still alive. Let's build a community around hope, action, and choosing to care. This is The Storyteller, and I'll see you at the next one. And also remember, you never know when your 5 minutes of kindness could become someone else's turning point.